on In-Depth Radio, Newstalk 1010.
Welcome back to the Late Shift of Scrawler with you from the Toronto Sun, Joe Warmington, Ross McLean from rossmcleansecurity.com. He's also working on a new book right now, which is, how's that coming?
I'm working on it, Joe. It's hard work, and I'm glad we've got Paula Todd on to talk about hers. I'm really excited about this topic she's got covered.
Yeah, for sure. And we're hoping to have Paula Todd in a moment. Just a tremendous reporter. Known her for a long time, and she did her own shows, different things on CTV, and obviously, from W5 and other things, and is now a great author. And one of the subjects that she's dealing with in her new book is called Extreme Mean, and it's about trolls, bullies, and other predators. And it's quite a book. I was sent over a copy, and I'm just in the process of reading it, and it's really, really interesting. And for me, Ross, and even for you or for anybody really, in the day of the social media, we're living this. I mean, the trolls and all the bullies and all that online, the Twitter crowd, they're anonymous, and you don't really know what to do with them, because sometimes they make a good point, and you certainly don't want to quell their free speech, but some of them are, and recently I just had a guy wish me dead, and again, how do you respond to that? You let it go or you laugh it off? And this book is dealing with all of that. And even here on the text, it says here, Joe, get that media whore mammo off your show. He is ridiculous, and please stop supporting Mayor Fraud. He has disrespected all Torontonians. Now, that's a point of view. Nothing wrong with that. But why is it that other people can't have a point of view? Or why is it that, it's called free speech, free radio, that kind of thing? I'm always surprised. Anyway, Paula Todd is with us now. And Paula, I think I've set up the book pretty good there. Now, first of all, welcome back to the show. It's really nice to have you with us.
Oh, Joe, it's really great to hear your voice and to be back here. And, I know you know a lot about this topic, as do many journalists, because when you're in the public eye, people who are feeling a variety of things, which I spent 2 years trying to figure out what they're actually feeling, you're an easy target.
Well, you've really hit on something with this book, and I think, from your last book on the Karla Homolka experience, I think you learned a lot from that experience. I thought that was a tremendous effort, journalistically, and also a very interesting, story. This one here, you've really hit on something that is today. It's really on target. Ross McLean is in studio, this is up your alley too.
Yeah, Joe, I covered this on my Facebook page. I covered the sex assaults, sexual violence against women, all of this stuff with the trolling. And I think that Paula's book here is going to rip the cover off, and people are going to find out what's really going on with this. I mean, the kids don't tell their parents. I have some parents who tell me that their kids tell them what's going on. Others don't, and they'll have little codes that they do with their text, for parents in room, this and that and the other, and they'll change the topic and they'll hide it. And if parents don't understand what's going on with this and the depths that this can go to.
Paula, now feel free to dive in and help us here a little bit about what you're trying to put across with this book.
There's sort of an irony here, Joe. You brought up the last book, Finding Karla. I tracked down Karla Homolka, one of the most notorious female serial killers, who I had information was trying to get close to young females in Guadeloupe, where ultimately I found her, and she was, at the same age as the victims, including her sister that she had, along with Paul Bernardo, had kidnapped and helped sexually torture and helped kill. And so I headed out trying to, find out what she was doing. And it was interesting because there were a great deal of the feedback on that book, it was sort of an in-between an article and a book, Kindle single. The response from the public was really strong. Thank you for trying, thank you for doing it. And then there was this bizarre backlash. Some of it from obviously jealous colleagues who'd been trying to track Karla down for a long time, but there was this other stuff that, it was sympathy for a serial killer, and it was calling me a slut and a whore and a bitch and other words that I just...
Enabler.
I just can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't even say
interfering with her children. I mean, I read all of the things.
I mean,
really,
the interesting thing for me is that I had gone out of my way, and I still never have broken my promise. Like, I've never revealed where she was, and I certainly did everything I could to protect her children. But what I realized is that some of the people who were writing to me, they weren't writing anything of substance. They just seemed so angry, and I was obviously just there, and when we're in the media, you know this, people are way more nice to us than they should be, and they're way nastier. But the language, and I'd been already thinking about this as a writer, as a commentator, to see this great thing, which is the internet, now just a weapon in some people's hands. And we kept hearing, oh, it's anonymity. You're anonymous, and so that you can do anything you want. But for that to actually logically follow, it has to mean that a majority of us, scraped of all laws, if they removed every law and we were all anonymous, would it be the case that you and I and everybody else would rush into the street and disobey stop signs and plow over pedestrians and rob homes and kill people? I just don't think so. I don't know those people. And so I thought there's a huge question mark around who are the people who are going online and who are targeting girls, who are misogynist and sexist and rapist and just breaking up every intellectual conversation, trying to destroy the talented, the athletic, the ambitious. What is that about? And anonymity can be an accomplice, obviously.
What did you come up with?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, and you know what? I got to say, I began the research, absolutely susceptible to nasty comments. And one of the problems we have right now is people are saying, well, what doesn't kill you keeps, makes you stronger, except that it is killing people. And the truth is it does hurt us. And so if we don't actually speak out about it, we're numbing today's children and adults, which is, we can't repress ourselves psychologically. We have all kinds of problems. So what I discovered and why I no longer feel particularly threatened by people online is I found out who the real people are. Some of them are mentally ill. Some of them are drunk. Some of them are drugged and high out of their mind. Some of them are everyday sadists and everyday psychopaths, meaning that, when they come online, they're looking for a chemical thrill. They need to harm other people. And the internet is, this great communication thing, but it also connects all of us. And so what I've done is I researched many, many stories and cases, and I've presented those all, because I want people to be able to go through the journey that I went through, because I feel quite immunized, actually, to it.
I don't want them to go through your journey or my journey either, but Paula Todd is my guest, and you can just tell that she's bringing something to the forefront, Ross, that this is going to be a best-selling book. It's by Random House. It's in stores now. You can get it on Amazon. It is a must-read. I've read half of it already, and I can't put it down, and it's my life that's come to the page. I mean, I'm reading it. I know Paula. I'm a huge fan of Paula's. For those that don't know, Paula's also a lawyer. She's done so many things in her career, including working at W5, big stories. She did her own show, which was a fantastic show on CTV. What was it called again? I forget.
The Verdict.
Yeah, I was on that show. And
you were fabulous on that show.
I don't remember the subject. Maybe Conrad Black. I'm not sure. Yeah. But anyway, Paula, I'm so thrilled that you've done this book. And you could tell, Ross, with Paula, she does not do books that are necessarily, that it's the obvious thing. She lives them. She feels them. She bleeds it, and it really is something special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, as you know, Joe, I work on studying on profiling and looking at criminals and looking at bad people. And what she's done is she's distilled this down for what's just been covered there. Some of these people who do these sort of activities, like they catch the average person by surprise when they're all of a sudden attacked by one of these people. It's like a deer wandering in front of a pack of hyenas, or even just one hyena for doing it. Some of these people are sick. They are mentally ill. They've got social problems. They've got mental illness, and they'll sit at their computer all day looking to harass, and they get their kick out of it. This is their kick. It's their high for doing it. And I think people, by reading her book, will understand these trolls, these mean trolls, better, and see them for what they are, not see them for what they are intending to inflict.
I think that's such a good point, and you've said it so well. I'd just like to add to that, this book is for adults as well. There's been a lot written about cyberbullying, and I do uncover some new evidence in the Amanda Todd case, which is important and speaks to the cyberbullying that she endured. I look at the Rebecca Black case, the young 13-year-old who sang Friday and was pilloried by the world. I mean, adults picking on a 13-year-old girl for some song she didn't even write. I spent about a year following her around as she deconstructed that. But I've also tried to bring to light what a lot of people are suffering in silence. Cyberstalking, for example, which is between adults, is, according to police, not just in Canada but in key areas around the world, it's happening now more than cyberbullying, and police don't know how to handle it. And so most people who are being stalked online are having their reputation absolutely destroyed. I look into revenge porn, where we're seeing guys posting photographs, naked, tend to be naked, taken during intimate moments, never meant for public eyes. They're putting these things up online, and they're calling on all the like-minded people. They've got the girls' and women's telephone number, their names, their social media handles, and they're asking them to come on and help destroy these women's lives. And it is actually working. But the point I'm trying to make is, once you have an idea of who these people are, it helps to immunize you, and it also gives you a huge, new code for how to be really careful online. And even more than that, and I know this is a really hard thing, and I'm not going to get a bunch of uptake on it right now, but if the majority of us don't speak out, if we don't stay online and assert that we want the internet to be the extraordinary place it is to communicate, we are going to lose 5 billion more people from developing countries, including ones with even lower educational standards than we already are seeing online. And people who are living in the most stressful and strained circumstances, they're going to have access to the internet. So if we don't do something now to say what we want, we're going to be huge losers.
What can we do, short version, to sort of stop it from going down this road?
I've been an interviewer for 20 years, and many authors used to, come on my show and say, read my book. And the truth is, I spent almost 2 years researching this internationally, and also meeting with people who were living this experience of being abused online. And so you need to read the book. That's the short thing. And one of the things you're going to learn from this is, I hope that your self-esteem and that your ability to understand that, you need to stay a human being with emotions, but reading this book can help immunize you, because you have understanding. And once you have that understanding, and you know that it's a minority, it's a tenacious minority that's disproportionately attracted to the internet to do something awful because of their own circumstances. Many of them are depressed. Once you know that, you realize that we need to stay online as a majority. You can be strong, because what you're really cyber abusers are censors. They are the weak among us. They're trying to shut down ambition and talent and all of the wonderful things that we encourage in each other. And once you do that, the next step is you got to stay online. You got to stay online.
It's surprising. No, you're saying it so well, and I think that people are feeling your passion. And, it's not just the anonymous ones. There's a lot of that, but there are people you mentioned earlier that colleagues. It's an amazing thing, the envy and jealousy. I'm talking about journalism, or maybe it's the same in policing. I don't know, but where you've got people even online on this Twitter stuff tonight. I did a column on Rob Ford, and there's people from other publications, saying things that were very derogatory, on the line of being libelous, talking about being in the tank and being an enabler on the payroll, things like that. And yet, I sit there, and maybe you can give a little advice. I was asking Ross, you like to say something back and say, well, what's your column about tonight, or what is it? But then you think, well, then you're just drawing in, you're getting sucked into the thing. If you're in this business, we have a job to do to bring out these things. Like when it comes to Mayor Rob Ford, for example, everybody wants to talk to him. So the one guy that talks to him somehow now is not worthy of even being alive. And people have said that. And I don't understand it. Like, the whole idea is to talk about it. There's nothing wrong. Don't vote for him if you don't like him, or don't like him if you don't like him. But we're not going to silence the mayor of the city if he's got something to say. Whether it's myself or if the times when he's not talking to me, he certainly will talk to the CBC or other people. And
Joe, I just have to tell you, I follow, obviously, I look at your columns and I read them, and I look at some of the troll commenters that are on the trolls on there that put on, they say disgusting, hurtful, ridiculous things. You go back and you can look through the history of their comments, and you see that's all they have to say. That's all they have to do. And it's interesting when I see shots.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that
there is when you're just twisted, when you're just out to be profane, when you're just out to be rude, when you're just out for shock value.
Extreme mean.
Let's take
a break,
book.
Paula.
I love this book.
Paula will be back with us. You've got time. Are you at an airport or somewhere? You're okay?
You know what? I'm finally back in Toronto. I've been traveling extensively, but I'm right back here, and I'd love to talk to you. And I have something really, I've got some advice for you, Joe. I know you've been a target, so...
I'm anxious to hear it when we come back. How's that for a tease? That's a radio tease.
Well done.
You're listening to In-Depth Radio, Newstalk 1010.
You're listening to The Late Shift with Joe Warmington on In-Depth Radio, Newstalk 1010.
Welcome back to The Late Shift, and Ross McLean is my guest host here tonight, and Paula Todd is my guest, and one of my favorite journalists. I've known her for many years, and she's one of the top journalists. And she has a new book out called Extreme Mean, Trolls, Bullies, and Predators. It's published by Random House. It's in stores now. And Ross, it was just mentioned in the New York Times over the weekend. And I would think that once that happens, it won't be long before it is picked up. You could just tell this is an international kind of book. This is where this story is at today with the internet. I think it's akin to somebody writing about the gold rush or...
I get questions every week on my page about this, and like she says, even with adults, I got a call from one woman there. She was saying that her girlfriend, someone who doesn't like her, is posting pictures of nude people, sort of severing the head off and not putting it there and intimating that it's her friend that's out there, and posting it and tweeting them and doing all these things. And she wanted to know what she could do about it to try and deal with, and what sort of person does this. And I got to say something, I think Paula has really hit on something here. If you've been a victim of this, if you know someone who's been a victim of this, or if you see these trolls going after people, pick up this book and read this, because I think it will be an inoculation and an eye-opener. And you know what? You got to teach your kids about this, too. They're facing this big time.
You can see that Toronto Police has picked up, a very small group, but I would think one day this is going to be a whole division, dealing with the internet. And let me read you something. Paula's with us. It says, but Winston Churchill said it's free and offensive speech that must be protected. Likewise, JFK, word for word. Your guest likes censorship.
Yeah, that's like yelling fire in the crowded theater, right?
Go ahead, Paula. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I am a free expression advocate, and obviously journalism has a long history of fighting to hear both sides, which is why I find it so interesting that you are being attacked for trying to present the other side of a news story. I know Mayor Rob Ford is, he's done some things that are, in many people's minds, inexcusable for a public leader. He's suffering, we think, from his own demons, and whether he should be, drawing a paycheck and ostensibly running a city or not while he's doing this is something that legitimately needs to be debated. I mean, that's what a democracy is about. We're allowed to talk about the values and the mores and simply the social structure that we want. I mean, right now we can look around the world where the internet is being shut down. It's in those countries where citizens are being denied any chance of regulating their world at all. So the importance of keeping the internet going and keeping it free is just so critical. So when people are attacking you, for example, Joe, for telling the other side of the story, which is our job. I mean, I teach digital media and journalism too, and one of the first things we teach them is, balanced reporting. You got to have both
all sides of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is I'm trying to turn the tables here on these bullies and these tormentors. I don't use the word trolls because trolls are really, when you read this book, you'll meet a troll, a real troll, a jester troll who lives in Los Angeles. Trolls are pranksters. They're jesters. We've had them forever, for centuries. The problem is that we use trolls to describe tormentors and harassers and cyberstalkers and even the sexual extortionists that were going after Amanda Todd and the blackmailers. And I just think we need to call a spade here. And I have a big feeling that our police officer agrees with that, because otherwise we camouflage some of the bad that's going on. But the problem is this. Right now, the people who are saying these nasty things, and they're uneducated. I mean, they can't make an argument on their own terms, which is why they lapse into sort of pejorative, the swearing and all of that. They're also just copying each other. They're being pulled into it. So we've got the problem that we now have this massive, fabulous stage upon which we can debate democratically, but a lot of people who don't actually know how to do that and don't have the vocabulary to do that, so instead, are going to go against you.
I have noticed a trend in, you try not to look at it, but you get drawn to it. And it's hard to not, because we all have egos, and we all have, when you see your name in print, you certainly look at it, or if you hear your name on the radio, you notice it. That's a human thing. And so I have noticed that trend that Paula just mentioned, where it seems that they are looking for their own pat on the back from others, and they're not always rational. There are times when they make a good point. What I'm amazed at is that when I read a column, or if I watch a show, or I listen to the radio, I'm always interested to hear what the host has to say, whether I agree or disagree. Certainly can call in or write my own column or write a letter to the editor, or what have you. That's all positive kinds of things. But I'm amazed when people start talking, especially people in the business you would think would know better, that your opinion is stupid, you're stupid, and you should say what I should say. And by the way, can I have Rob Ford's phone number? And that has happened to me, over and over.
But Joe, part of what you're running up against a whole bunch of things here. Schadenfreude is one of the things that I explain in the book, and it's a German word. We don't really have a translation for it, but in English it's roughly defined as the joy of seeing the pain of others. So, when you do well, Joe, and you get a story, I mean, for all the time journalists are spending trying to ridicule the mayor, everybody wants an exclusive. I mean, our business runs on it, and so you got it. And when you get it, then you're obviously going to, you're going to engage the fear of other journalists who don't have it. And so instead of appropriately discussing the issues, they're going to go after you, and that's kind of a schadenfreude. It's an envy. We're seeing this kind of cyberbullying happening in the workplaces. It's part of our politics. It's a bully nation. It's problematic. But also, one of the things I did was look at all of the academic and scientific research that's going on around the world, and one of the things that we've discovered is that on controversial issues online, there is a debate. There's a division. That's democracy. That's so great, where none of us is completely right? But the problem is the minute that you inject this kind of a language, some of which is coming, by the way, from young people, the people who are online initially and sort of laid down this template, not mature, and I mean that in the kindest ways. We all had to grow up, right? So we've got this kind of bad language going on. But once this negativity, this sort of, non-intellectual, just throwing out insults, once that registers online, what science is showing is that we begin to polarize. So it's not just Joe. It's the fact that people are going negative on you that is going to further make that conversation black and white. So the very tone, which, by the way, that kind of cyber abuse that we're all exposed to, it's not just hurting the targets. It's not just hurting the bullies, because it does hurt bullies. The more you bully online, the sicker you get, the more likely you are to turn to drugs and alcohol.
I've seen columnists stick up for these cyber bullies. I've seen columnists stick up for people that lure a woman into a hotel room, and we've seen that.
But who would do that?
I've read those same columns, and these are the same people that are going after me for talking to the very guy at the center of the story. So you've hit on something. Let me change the subject a little bit, if you don't mind. Obviously, this book is, I hope it's going to be a bestseller. What are you hearing so far?
It's a bestseller online. It's only been out a few days.
Yeah. So
but the interest, I mean, I've just kind of exhausted because I've been crisscrossing the country, and it was in New York a few days ago at ABC on the Diane Sawyer show. Like, there does seem to be quite a bit of interest, but the situation for me is I'm approaching it from a very, academic research. I mean, it's great stories, and you can get into it. It reads like a mystery, but I'm also I'm asking people, if you want to immunize yourself from this, you want to help people, then you really have to understand where it's coming from.
It's going to be a movie. This is going to be a movie. It reminds me, when I read, it's a little different, but it reminds me of one of my favorite books was Moneyball, which was the same kind of thing.
I love that book.
Yeah, and it dealt with something that I found fascinating. Of course, the movie I thought was fantastic as well.
Is Brad Pitt going to be in this movie?
Yeah, you know what? Somebody's got to play Ross over there. Kiefer Sutherland's going to play Ross.
Yeah, there you go. But you know what? That's interesting though. The police right now are going into, and I've seen them do it. You can see their videos online. They're going into auditoriums and high schools all over the place, talking to kids about how not to be bullied and how to deal with it. And this sort of book, I mean, I'm not sure how it's written at the level, but this could almost be something that should be required reading in the school for these kids.
I think
this is the part of journalism that no one's talked about, the two-way part of it, the commenting, the coming back, and everything else. I think this is right on the money, Joe.
What's your next project, or can you tell us?
I'm under a 2-book deal right now to Random House, so this is my 3rd book, and so I'm about to start the 4th book, and I can't tell you, but I will just let you know that I'm shifting gears a bit, and I'm going to be tackling a topic that's pretty accessible for everyone, and that would be sex.
Okay, well,
but from a different perspective.
We're looking forward to...
But can I just say,
from 4-letter words to a 3-letter word.
Yeah.
The book is, can I just say, Extreme Mean it's like, somebody described it as a freight train. It's easy to read. It's super well researched. And it is, somebody today told me it's a definitive work for parents and teachers. If you feel like you don't understand the internet, you probably don't. Just read the book. You'll be so caught up. You'll be so far ahead of everybody. You're like going to be 5 years ahead technologically, and you are going to know how to handle this.
Can I ask you this, Paula? Is this a book that every dad should make sure his girl reads?
Oh my God!
Like girls as but I mean it's different. But I mean for girls to be attacked the way they're attacked on their reputation, I think this is something that every dad should maybe read himself first. Because I'll tell you, Joe, some of these bad guys, they pass around the names of these girls to other guys to go and harass them too. It's not just the one Extreme Mean you got to worry about.
Yeah, there's lots, and there's so much in there for moms and dads who are trying to protect young women and women because they are disproportionately attacked online. So I've looked at everything. I've looked at how the media is luring young girls to do what they're doing, and they're being exploited, and then predators and pedophiles are trying to justify their own sicknesses by blaming the young girls. And I show girls and women how to stand up for themselves, and that includes dads and men too, who I know want to stand up for the women in the world.
The world, it's interesting because all of this evil, all of this great stuff the internet brings, but all of this evil is there as well. And we saw that even with the Tim Bosma thing. It goes on and on. There's another character in the screenplay of life that we have to watch. Paula Todd, thank you for joining us. We know how busy you've been. I was supposed to have Paula on last week, but I was in Moncton. So it was really hard to deal with the RCMP. So we appreciate you very much for coming back. I still want to bring you into studio when you're back.
That'd be great, Joe. And you know what? Thank you. Like you don't give up. And I'm afraid, unfortunately, right now that the price of free speech is having to stand up to people who, at base, are suffering themselves or, are jealous or envious. And can I just say to the world out there, if you think you're doing a great thing, cyber abusers, you're censoring everybody. You're actually defeating us. You're inviting the government in to regulate the Internet, and that is not what heroes do.
Well said, Paula Todd. Thank you very much.
Take good care.
You too. Ross, I don't know. This is the most powerful segment I think we've ever done.
I've been dealing with this
Yeah.
for the last 2 years with people looking for answers for this, and and she's really put it into words. I think
Boy, did she ever. You're listening to In-Depth Radio, News Talk 1010.